So basically they got tackled straight away, and it was on the last, so they couldn't take advantage of any of that momentum. But yeah, Salford then just really romped it. On Scott Griggs, before I get on to like some of the good stuff.
Scott
Griggs can. Oh no, Scott Griggs. He can do no wrong in the eyes of the Giants fans. It's ridiculous. Amazingly, he got the biggest cheer of any of the players when the team name was announced. But he then went on to have a very Scott Griggs performance. Every time he got the ball in the line, he sort of planted his feet dead wide apart so he couldn't step or move, and just got absolutely laid out. It happened over and over again in the game. He wasn't particularly good, I didn't think, but the Huddersfield fans were cheering him and clapping him all the way throughout, and it just baffled me. There was no reaction to Uarte or to Frawley like their new signings. You'd have thought they'd have got excited, a big cheer, applauding them in and stuff like that, making them feel welcome. No, it was Scott Griggs that they all loved. I don't think they remember that he didn't bloody even try and clear that ball out of play in that last second against Leeds. Do they not hold it against him like I do? I don't understand. Very confusing. In terms of the star players, though, Niall Evalds, for me, he was a threat throughout this game. He was, even when he wasn't given the ball to him, he was putting himself in these dangerous positions. There was quite a few times I started to just sort of watch him when Salford were attacking, because it was that interesting seeing where he would go, because it wasn't necessarily a hint to where the ball would go, because it didn't always go to him, but it was a hint to where the threat was. And there was a few times where he'd kind of jumped back on the inside shoulder of the half carrying the ball, and usually it was spousal abuser Robert Louis who had the ball, and Louis wasn't quite noticing it and missed a couple of opportunities to slip an inside ball back into Evalds, where he would have broken up the middle of the field and maybe scored even more than the 3 tries he got. I mean, he set up a try as well. He was just, when he got the ball, he was accelerating across the front of the Huddersfield defenders, the sort of half second rower and centre, on both sides of the field, and they just couldn't cope with him because he had a run or pass threat as well, and he scored tries and set up tries. So yeah, he was really, really good in this game. And I suppose like the highlight moment, the real highlight moment, if anyone's seen the footage, came through Evalds ultimately, but it was Evalds' second try. It featured a really nice piece of play by the Salford team to create an overlap. It went through the halves. I think Jones had a good run, then got an offload out to Jansen Turgid, who put in a beautifully weighted left foot kick. This is after he'd gone into the centre after Sal's injury. Put in a beautifully weighted left foot kick that Evalds was the only person really ever getting on the end of. It was a real fantastic try, and it was a real good flowing move from the Salford Red Devils too. So yeah, there's something to look out for there in that side, I've got to say. As long as they don't get any injuries.
Yeah, well, there's one to watch then.
I mean, they'll get injuries. It's rugby league, isn't it?
So
I mean, Junior Sal went off injured in this game after he scored the opening try. So
we can only hope that they're comedy injuries, like dropping a jar of mayonnaise on the foot or something, equally amusing.
Yeah, if it's not that, then it's sad, isn't it? I suppose. Do you want to take us through the first of the fan views? I'm guessing this was a Huddersfield fan.
Yeah, John says that last try summed up our performance. I think that's a crying emoji, laughing emoji. Yeah, laughing emoji, laughing emoji.
Oh, the last try. So I don't know if you've seen, Tim, the highlights of this one, because I know you knew that I was going to be talking more about this one. The last try, Huddersfield, for some reason, I think it was Scott Griggs who did it, put a chip in over the top as the hooter was going, when it was 28 points to 16 or whatever it was at the time. That's to 14. And I don't know why he did it, but anyway, he did it. And then Donnell McIntosh got to it first, but could only kick it on. It ended up with Jackson Hastings, who decided, well, if you're going to do a chip over the top when the game's over, I'm going to do a chip over the top when the game's over. Did this chip over the top, sort of landed between Daryl Alfertz and a couple of Huddersfield players. Alfertz kicked it forward, and I'm not sure which Huddersfield player it was. It was either Joe Wardle, I think it was Joe Wardle, who or Scott Griggs, who made an absolute hash of it, air kicked at it, missed it completely, and Alphonse just put the ball down. It was hilarious. Yeah, it was a real schmozzle, as Steve-O would have said.
Do like schmozzle was a brilliant word. Yeah, already got finished John's view. Already got a handful of injuries, not looking good for the rest of the season. Crying emoji. Only good player was probably Isaac Farrell.
Yeah, he's got stupid hair. His goal kicking was decent. Yeah, you know what? He's a little kid who's got some potential. I think everyone in the Huddersfield side had one good moment in the game. They just all had several bad moments too. Owen Hughes said, "I know they have their injuries and we are fully fit, but I'm still chuffed with that performance. Yes, they played badly, but we did what we needed too, and every win is important if we are going to avoid relegation danger this year." Smiley face. Very smiley face.
Yeah, I can't actually see that one, so it's good job you had that one. Mark W. said, "I can excuse the lack of intensity and physicality in such a decimated side, but there's no excuse for such a major lack of organisation. Salford were fast off the line and our defence was nowhere near ready for it. Farrell had a really good debut and Seb and Warren impressed off the bench, but we looked like a team that weren't prepared and never learned, with the same defensive errors creeping up again and again."
Yeah, fair enough. Fourth game, Friday night's final game, Tim. This one's going to be a bit tougher for us to go through, so I've given it to you.
Yes, so it finished. I'm looking at the wrong sheet. It finished Castleford 20, Catalan 4, an attendance of 7,904. Mr. James Child, singular, was the referee. The stats might say that Cash should have won by more: 424 more metres, 1.6 metre per carry better average gain, 10 breaks to 5 with 15 breaks in the game. It's very strange that only 4 tries were scored. Catalan had the double recipe for defeat of below 1,000 metres and worse than 90% team tackle success rate. In terms of individuals, Liam Watts made 43 tackles, 6 tackle busts, 181 metres, and 4 offloads. Greg Eden, unfortunately, scored 2 tries, somehow managed to bust 7 tackles, made 144 metres, and
they must have been half.
Yeah, 2. Oh, they weren't really tackles, were they? And made 2 clean breaks. Peter Matayutai, 8 tackle busts to 126 metres, and Claire James from Steps, 119 metres and 2 clean breaks. In terms of the Catalan, Braden Williame, 117 metres, Benjamin Garcia making 40 tackles, and good old Alex da Costa chipping in with 47 tackles of his own. I'm only going off the paper report here because that's as much as I've seen about this, because the highlights weren't up by the time I got to look at them, but seems to be the Paul McShane show, very much from what I've read, and
yeah,
that seemed to be pretty much dominating. Obviously, taking over the kicking duties as well. So
kicking him from everywhere, nabbed a try as well.
Did well. So anyway, let's find out what the people thought who actually might know a little bit more about this than we do.
Yeah, definitely. Fatboy Rob said, "Cass were awesome. Alex Foster was a rock in defence. Watts had his best game so far. Shenny back to his best. Minikin looked at home at centre. Eden and Menace. Rankin was solid. And Macca flawless. Ratboy was anonymous apart from kicking off when he was penalised for putting a knee into Cookie. The only downside was the amount of pens we gave away. At least one was legit. It's going to be a good year for the Tigers." I read into at least one being legit to meaning they were all legit, and Castleford were very ill-disciplined in this game, but got away with it with some very strong performances from a number of individuals. Because for Rob to admit one was legit, at least one was legit.
Yeah,
that's him saying they all were.
Yeah. Amber-coloured spectacles. Anyway, at Rugby League 2019 says, "A great first run out for the Castlewood lads. Huge performances from the Cass pack, with Watsy playing probably his best game in a Cass shirt. Another strong performance from Matayutai proves that he is probably the answer to Castlewood's fullback issues from last season. Undoubtedly, McShane was the hero of the night yet again. The man makes important tackles all over the field and still has energy in reserve to attack. #Coif."
Helen Gapick said, one of the coldest nights of the year, I stood watching a phenomenal defensive performance from what can only be described as a very determined Castleford side. Liam Watts put in an outstanding performance both in attack and defence, giving us the extra yards needed. The referee made a negative impact in the game with some questionable decisions, but did not spoil the outcome, thankfully.
Dean Gale says defence was key tonight for Cass against some people's tip for the top. In short, Catalan were lucky to score one try and looked like they lacked the killer edge in attack. And the fearsome pack of Catalan was slayed by the Cass pack. Cass tried too hard sometimes and were on the wrong side of the penalty count. Good first hit out. Looked promising for Cass for this year, even without Gale. Coif.
And Malcolm Matias says, short off-season again, Steve's? Question mark. Basically questioning why he didn't have his team prepared for this early season game, just like he didn't at the start of last season when they lost handsomely on the road.
Still on the cut there.
Yeah. It sounds like there was a few penalties in this game, so that's something that Castleford obviously will need to iron out. From the Catalan perspective, do you think there maybe is, like, one of the questions we had, weren't it, when we did the season preview was who they're going to play where? Now, we found out in this game that the current plan is Sam Tompkins at fullback, Gigo and Smith in the halves, and they had David Mead on the wing with Samasoni Langi in his actual position of centre. But is he good enough even at centre to be in Super League? So there's questions to be asked, to be answered there. But Catalan surely will be better when they're on home field.
You definitely hope so. But and I think there is an element of the travel. Probably it feels worse at this time of year because.
Well, Sam Tompkins has been busy getting married as well, hasn't he, in January? So that must have impeded on the training and getting the connections sorted out between the players. You would think a little bit.
Well, congratulations to him.
Yes. I'm sure that's echoed by all out there, especially people who give him such complimentary nicknames. Fifth game.
Sky missed a trick because they could have done like a Sky Sam's team the wedding, couldn't they? They could have got
They could have had like a whole build-up with the groomsmen kind of arranging the stag do,
and then they could have got like a French school to do like a French exchange as well.
Yeah, stag do definitely wouldn't have been able to be started off in Standish because the bars from all the pubs there.
To be fair, thinking about it, the kids from the original Sam's team probably now can go out drinking because it was a few years,
maybe this yearish, because when would it would have been about 2012, wouldn't it have been peak Sam Tompkins kind of mania? Yeah. That was when he won Man of Steel. Was it 2012 or was it 2013? I can't remember.
If you can't remember,
anyway,
the rest of us can't.
He won a double in 2013. That was good. Okay, fifth game of the weekend. I was also in attendance as Warrington put Leeds Rhino to the sword. It was 20 points to 0 at half-time. God, I really need to sort out these spreadsheets because they're all over the show with errors. But it ended up 26-6, so tied the second half for Leeds. Maybe that's some consolation they could take. 13,098 were in attendance. Chris Kendall was the referee who, may I say, I thought had a very good game from my neutral perspective. Stats-wise, Wire had a lot more ball. Despite one more handling error and one more penalty conceded, they made 430 more metres than Leeds. They had a better average gain and a better team tackle success rate too. Although they only managed one more break at 8-7, they scored 4 tries to 1 and were totally dominant really they were totally dominant from the point where Jack Hughes got sin-binned after 12 minutes. Individually, Chris Hill was imposing, back to his best and without much moaning or grubbiness, 144 metres. Bryson Goodwin was very much the better of Callum Watkins in this game. Bryson Goodwin got 9 tackle busts and 142 metres. Tom Lynham 5 tackle busts, 136 metres, 5 successful offloads. I'll come back to that. Stefan Ratchford a try, 9 tackle busts and 130 metres impressed me too. For the losing Leeds Rhino side, Conrad Hurrell 5 tackle busts and 163 metres. He had over 20 carries in the game. He kept putting his hand up to carry the ball despite making a couple of errors. Jack Walker 121 metres. Stevie Ward 1 try, 46 tackles, and Matt Parcell 43 tackles. Yeah, I was really impressed with how Warrington played in this game. I don't think anyone watching could maybe see it any differently. They were the better team in every position, really. I just think it felt